Hey guys, worst preacher ever here. Here to tell you a story from the Bible that is probably too offensive for you to ever have heard from a preacher in a normal situation. Either way, this is a story from Judges. You know the book of Judges? The book of Judges is about Israel constantly messing up. Not going to hang out there long. There's a whole book on it. Read about it. It's in the Bible. Ehud was a guy that God raised up that would rescue Israel from the Moabites. The Moabites, Israel's inbred cousins. If you don't understand that one, go back to Lot, Sodom and Gomorrah. His wife died, turned into salt. His daughters decided that it was a good idea to keep their bloodline from stopping, so they got dad wasted one night in a cave in the mountain and procreated with him. The result of the oldest daughter and Lot was the Moabites.
That's just gross.
Fast forward 500-600 years, and you have the Moabites enslaving Israel in the Promised Land. Go figure. So God raises up a guy named Ehud.
Who?
Ehud, it's interesting because a lot of people have always said that he was just left-handed and that was a big deal. He was the left-handed assassin. It's not exactly the truth. He was left-handed, but it wasn't the fact that he was the left-handed assassin that made it a big deal. What made it a big deal is if you get into the language, it doesn't say he was a left-handed assassin. It says he was shut of his right hand. Most likely what I'm telling you is he had something wrong with his right hand, so he had to be left-handed. I'm telling you, most likely Ehud was crippled somehow. I know that's not popular, and I know your preacher's not going to say it that way, but if he were to do his homework and pay attention to the language, he would see that that's most likely the case, and we're going to get into why that was most likely the case as we continue further in this story. Anyway, Ehud makes himself a sword about a cubit long. A cubit is about 18 inches. Just do a little reading, get on the YouTube, get on the Google, whatever. You can figure these things out. It's not hard to discover. But he makes him a sword about 18 inches long. He conceals it inside his cloak, inside his coat, inside something on his right thigh, so he can sneak in whenever the Israelites go to the king and they make their tribute, their annual payment to the people who have enslaved them.
Not to worry. I have a permit.
So after they make their payment, after they pay their tribute, they go to leave. I skipped something. By the way, the description that is given of King Eglon, the king of the Moabites, is, hang on, and I quote, King Eglon was a very fat man. Just think of that. How fat do you have to be that the writers of the Holy Scriptures recorded it? It's like, you guys, we can't say he's just heavy. This guy was fat. No one else needs to be described as this, but this guy has to be described as fat. So this guy's fat.
Oh my goodness.
That's how he's described. Anyway, King Eglon is a very fat man. Ehud goes back, says, I have a secret for you. The fat guy, he says, stop. So when Ehud comes back to talk to the king, he tells him, hey, I've got a message for you. And the king just says, be quiet, stay quiet. And he gets everybody out of the room with him. Now, here's the key. Here's the key to understanding why I believe that Ehud was shut of his right hand. He was somewhat handicapped in some sort of way. Because if this guy were any type of actual threat to the king, any type of a threat, or an average person even, he would never be caught alone with him because he could be an assassin. But if he were a crippled guy, a handicapped guy, someone who possibly had something wrong with his right hand, most likely he could get alone time with the king. Whenever everyone's gone, they go into the cool chamber, lock the door behind them. Ehud goes up. He says, I have a secret from God, or I have a message from God, takes his sword out and stabs him in the stomach. And I don't mean he just pokes him. The Bible says that the blade went in so far that the fat closed around the handle. That means it had to close around Ehud's hand. And he just left it. I don't know why I get freaked out about him just leaving it there. I wouldn't want it back either. But it went in far enough to stick in him. Folks, I'm telling you, he didn't just poke him. He stabbed this guy so hard, it was like he was trying to draw pictures on the wall behind him with the tip of the sword. So after he stabs the guy, after he stabs the fat king, it says he leaves the sword in him and the refuse came out. The refuse poured out. A perfect translation actually says the dirt came out. When it says dirt, it actually means poop.
Say what?
The poop came out. The insides were now outsides. No one wants to talk about it, but basically what was going on is he got stabbed so hard in the stomach. The knife is still in there. There's a hole there. The guy's pooping out his belly hole and it's spilling out onto the ground.
Man, that's gross.
The door's locked. Ehud sneaks away like a ninja. He gets out of there. The slaves, his servants, are hearing at the door, smelling something at the door probably, and they're like, oh, he's just in his cool chamber, and he's just relieving himself. So they leave him in peace. They let him be for a little bit until they get nervous. They haven't heard from him, so they break down the door. They kick in the door. They find him dead, and everyone's panicking. By this time, Ehud has made it back to his people. He's rallied the troops. He's blew the trumpet. And basically, he's brought them back to the city to the point now to where he's just like, get them, boys. And they attack. And they beat down all the Moabites. And they, most importantly, they get the port. So the Moabites cannot escape, but they also can't get reinforcements either. And the Bible says that at that time they killed about 10,000 people. And after this, Israel lived in relative peace for about 80 years until they messed up again, go figure. And they cried out to God again, and they couldn't figure out why they kept going wrong. So anyway, that's the story of Ehud, the most likely crippled guy that you're not going to hear about in Vacation Bible School because he's killed a fat man with a sword that he stabbed all the way in him and left it in there. And it's apparently offensive to people. Go figure. Anyway, until next time, y'all have a good one. We're going to do better with production on this one. This is our first video. I'm just trying to figure out this whole internet thing out. I'm an old man. But we're probably going to offend some folks that's all right. And I'm sure I'll sleep just fine at night. But seriously, just wait till you hear the whole story of Peter. That guy was a nut. Man, it's crazy. And Samson, kind of a scumbag, but we don't talk about stuff like that. Either way, peace. God bless you. Stay prayed up. That was fun. I swear, I feel like I need an intro or an outro music, like an exit, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the breaking glass. Da-dum, dum, da-dum, da-dum.